Ready Check Radio.
Stand by as we get ready to serve up all your news this week in the world of gaming. Welcome to Gaming Gumbo. Why, hello, Internet! It's Saturday, it's 7 p.m. Eastern, and that means here on Ready Check Radio, it's time for Gaming Gumbo, your weekly gaming wrap-up show. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man. As always, we're doing the show live, Saturday, 7 p.m., twitch.tv/Ready Check Radio. We got chat ready to chime in with their opinions on a variety of fun topics today. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Audible, Spotify, iTunes, thank you so much. Give it a like, a subscribe, turn on those notifications, thumbs up, write a good review, put a comment in on your thoughts and your decisions on Game of the Week at the end of the show down below. All that engagement certainly helps us. It's fast, it's easy, and it's entirely free for you to do, and we appreciate it. If you like what we do, tell a friend. Maybe join us live, hang out with chat. Joining me to chat about all kinds of fun stuff in the gaming world in the past week, he's back. It's Mr. Dom Greco. Well, he's back. But that's just a theory.
Just
a game theory.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. A little homage to the Matt Pat, huh?
Matt Pat's final episode today, about 5 hours before we recorded this. He put out his final theory, which ironically was about game theory itself.
Yeah.
It's
very Inception.
Yeah, very, very cool concept. Very good ending, I think, to his legacy. And I'm sure a majority of people researched it or looked into it, but the guy at the very end of the video was Scott Cawthon from the Five Nights at Freddy's series. So it was kind of like that I'm getting all the answers moment, and I'm not going to tell any of you because I'm not going to be here anymore. You know, it's like, ugh, I hate that.
Yeah, obviously a wonderful YouTube creator.
Yeah.
You know, obviously his type of content's really got to be your tea or not your tea. It is a very kind of a niche thing, but he found a big niche with it. He found a very, very big niche with it and has done a lot of wonderful stuff. We wish Matt, Pat, and the family all the best. All the best. We'll certainly miss new videos, but I mean, the dude, this is what you do it for, right? Like, you can't do content creation at the level that some of these people that are making, very, very good money doing it. You can't do it forever, right?
Yeah, 13 years.
Eventually you make a mistake and get your ass canceled real quick, or you just start fading into nobody's watching it, or your real life starts taking over, and then things become sporadic, and then it's a very finite time for those top end creators to make that kind of money. He made it, and now he's going to go do his thing with it. And he's doing a lot of stuff outside that. He was very intelligent as a creator. He wasn't all putting it in the bucket of making sure the next video gets 10 million views, right? He consults for businesses and social media and stuff like that. So wish him the best. Absolutely great guy. Thumbs up. But that's just a theory. Also on the line, resident artist from Ready Check Radio. It's Yod. What's up, boss?
Yeah, we've made 3 weeks in a row at this point.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
And we're gonna have a show next week. It'll be Dom and Troy and I. You'll have the day off, but then there won't be a show the following week. I'll be in Las Vegas, and whether or not there's a show the week after that depends on how I do in Vegas. You let me pull a slot machine that says $1 million or more. You never see my white ass on this channel again.
That's not true. I don't think so for one moment. I think you're gonna have you want to do it for fun, Yeah,
I'm doing it for fun now. Let's be honest about things here, right? It's the best quality video, audio, and content that nobody watches. That's what I often say when I'm a guest on other podcasts that people actually watch.
We have our fun here.
We do. And you're right. Theory. I mean, yeah, you're right. I would totally, ironically, I'd probably be a more successful content creator if I hit for $1 million or $2 million in Vegas, because then there's no day jobs. There's none of that. It's literally just to be successful at this, you have to do, right? It has to be your job.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's never been my job. It's always been a second or third job of mine that I did to have fun. So
But then you'll be sitting there agonizing and contemplating algorithms and stuff like that, how to get the hits and how.
no, I wouldn't
no,
care.
no.
I got $1 million or $2 million in the bank. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it is my only
take
job, but it's a job at that point that I don't need it to make money. So
you take the Mr. Beats approach to that, and you hire somebody to worry about that for you.
Yeah.
Ooh, there you go.
yeah, you go ahead and do it that way. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about some game stuff. We should start with this. Unfortunately, this is a little bit of sad news. And it's one of those things that, like, even if you aren't a fan of what we're about to talk about's content or the creation stuff, that style, right? Like it's Yod as an artist. We talked about this on a different podcast yesterday. I think I mentioned this on either. No, I was on Ginger Prime's podcast yesterday with Work to Game and stuff. It was a good time. Go check it out. Ginger Prime's YouTube channel. We had some fun there. And I think I said, Akira Toriyama, who passed away this past on the 1st of the month. We found out about it this week. Even if you did not watch Dragon Ball, which I didn't, I'm not a huge Dragon Ball fan, but that's, I'm not a big anime guy. Right. Even if you never watched Dragon Ball, you know what it is. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what it is. Enough so that if you saw art in that style, you would say, did the Dragon Ball guy do this? Like, even if you didn't know his name, right? It's like a mono art in Final Fantasy, right? Right. It's got that very distinctive look, and you may like it, you may not, but it's a mono art. Mm. And when what I find fascinating about Akira Toriyama's work, right, is it's very hard, and Yod, maybe you can speak to this a little more, being in the profession. It's, to me, in the artistic stuff I do, magic and stage stuff, and in any art, I find it very hard to be uniquely identifiable, but also manage to have broad appeal. Yeah. Right? Because to have broad appeal, you're trying to, accommodate everybody's tastes as best you can, and you end up with a very blended and sometimes generic style. That was never the case with Akira Toriyama. It appealed to so many, but is also very, very unique to the point that anytime you see something like it, you think it could be his. Right.
So in Japan, a lot of times a creator that breaks out will have intern at a different studio.
Yeah.
So a lot of times their style will look similar to a previous style, where it has enough appeal that it looks like the other style, but is a little bit different, that they can make their own name. But Toriyama really wasn't like that.
No.
Because like you see his stuff, and it is kind of drastically different than anything else out there.
Yeah. And if you are a fan of any anime at all, right, even if you weren't a Dragon Ball fan particularly, if you like other anime out on the market, particularly if you are outside of Japan, let's put that, it's always been very, very popular in Japan, but outside of Japan, you owe a little bit of a debt to Toriyama and the success of Dragon Ball, which really allowed other products to come outside of Japan and be successful too. Because previous to some of those early anime, Dragon Ball, not the only one, of course, I'm not implying that, but one of the bigger ones. It really gave companies the confidence to say, maybe this will do well outside of Japan too. Let's take a shot at it.
Right. It helped open the door, along with Sailor Moon and Inuyasha and a few other ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, aside from anime, he did do a lot of work on video games.
That's where my love for his art comes from.
Right.
Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior. He did the character art in Chrono Trigger, of course. Blue Dragon, I said on the other podcast, is simply one of the most underrated RPGs of all time. It's very enjoyable. And he did all the art for that too. So that's where his work touched me.
So I actually, because as far as his work goes, Dragon Ball isn't my what should I say? Everything after Dragon Ball isn't quite my favorite. Dragon Ball itself was good, but once again, not quite my favorite. I do really, really remember a PlayStation 1 game though called Tobal Number 1.
Oh yeah, Tobal.
And like my college roommate at the time would constantly play that game. and I'd end up like after doing projects or whatever, falling asleep on the couch, or we're passing out wherever, and I'd hear that music in the background. So the music for the game, the art style and stuff that it's ingrained in my brain from those days in college, and it was a good game. On top of that, I thought it would get a sequel, but it never did. I don't think, at least not in the states.
Dom, you into Dragon Ball or anything like that?
No, not really. I'm not a big anime person in general. Recently, I started watching a bit of the Ghibli movies.
Oh yeah.
So I've seen like The Cat Returns, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, some of the really good ones, and then there's another. I forget the. I gotta look real quick. There's another series that I started watching. The third movie just came out in the series. What was it called? I'm looking in my Plex right now. I don't know where to put it.
I mean, Yod is definitely one of our resident anime manga people. Obviously, I mean, he does his own work. Go check it out. He's let you know at the end of the show every single week to go check out the new panels or new issues. And there's like he's always the one in Ready Check Radio's Discord that's putting in anime or manga memes. Mm-hmm. And like maybe 1 out of 5 I get. The other ones I'm always like, hey Torchwick, what is this? And he's like, oh, that's from this, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty funny.
So most of the time I'm actually trolling some of the other people in
the
Discord.
I know.
Because they seem to have this very adverse reaction to any of the images from a show called Full Metal Alchemist, where this dude merges his daughter and this dog together.
Yeah.
And personally, I've actually not watched the entire series. I've watched like an episode here or there, but the first I found out that they have this adverse reaction to this setup. So every time I see something on social media with that image or related to that image, I have to post it up.
You have to post it. Dom, did you find what you were looking for?
I did. So it's the guy's called, I'm probably gonna butcher because I'm really bad at pronouncing things. Makoto Shinkai, who does Your Name, Weathering You, and the newest one that came out was Suzume.
Yes.
Those 3 movies, I love all of them. They are fantastic. I dare say they are better than anything Ghibli has put out, and I know that's gonna upset a lot of people. The style I think is more, and Ghibli's just a little like weird and out there for me, and these ones are a little more like grounded. There's still kind of like really cool elements of like alternate dimensions and stuff like that, but Ghibli's just weird. I don't know, but I don't hate Ghibli. So when I say weird, that's not bad. Weird is just it's strange, you know.
Ghibli's a different generation.
Sure.
Ghibli's because the creator you're talking about right now, the first one you mentioned, Your Name, was it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was like their very first like major production.
Yeah.
So they have no history before that. Ghibli, you can go back to things like Totoro and stuff like that. That's way, way back there in the 70s and stuff like that. So his style is grounded in the 70s.
Yeah.
Your Name, the creator for Your Name, his style and themselves are grounded in more of the early 2000s to today. So there's going to be that difference in storytelling.
Yad just like did his best impression of like a Sirius XM, and he was like, "All the hits grounded in today."
That's where their style comes from. So if you're more used to today's storytelling and stuff like that, then yes, his storytelling and style will appeal to you more.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend Princess Mononoke if you haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What was it?
He's not saying Ghibli isn't grounded.
Right,
He's talking about Ghibli being grounded in an artistic art style of an era. That's different from the studio not presenting grounded content.
Right. The art style is from a different era, is the thing. He's hearkening back to those older styles. When I was thinking of Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. You can find Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. That one was really cool. The animation is of course, his style and not quite today's.
Mhm.
All
That's from
hand on.
'84, right?
Yes, I believe it
Yeah.
was. Whatever you do, do not watch the
Grave of
Harmony
the Fireflies.
Gold American dubbed one.
Okay.
They, they renamed it Warriors of the Wind and added all kinds of different lines to it. It's bad, but yeah.
Okay.
But no, Grave of the
we kind
Fireflies.
of got spun off here.
Yeah,
So our condolences, obviously, to Akira Toriyama's friends and family. Was only 68. Had a acute subdural hematoma, and yeah, I mean, obviously, huge influence
kinda crazy.
on a
And
lot of art
um,
and a lot of performance and TV and manga and just and video games. It's just all over the place.
right, and he had new projects coming up too.
Yeah, some of which
Like,
are scheduled to still be released later this year,
right,
like the new
yeah,
DBZ one.
the next anime season coming up. I think it's a summer season. New Dragon Ball series is coming out. So
He has one game coming out still
Mhm.
too that he had done art for. So yeah, very sad. Hey, an update on a couple of things from last week. So, Dom, you weren't with us here, but we obviously dug into the Nintendo versus Yuzu, or to be technical, Tropic Haze
Yep.
lawsuit over emulation. And then we talked about emulation as a whole and everything. We're not going to relitigate all that. But I did want to give you an update. As soon as it happened that day, if you follow us on Twitter, which you really should, X, if you follow us there, I immediately retweeted it as it was breaking and just said something to the effect of, well, boy, that was fast. We, all three of us, speculated, particularly me on the show last week, that this was going to settle very quickly. One,
didn't expect it that quickly.
yeah, no, fair. One, I personally thought, obviously, Yuzu probably doesn't have the finances to drag this out the way they would need to send it to court, because Nintendo could bury them under motions and paperwork and just keep racking up those legal fees for all the process. But I also speculated that there are specific questions that Nintendo was kind of skirting with its lawsuit. They have a very all emulation is bad, illegal piracy view that is subject for debate in courts. Some items in that debate have been mostly answered in court, if not directly answered in court. But there are other aspects that I think even Nintendo really doesn't want to see the inside of a courtroom, because they might end up with a definitive answer that they don't want. And so that's why their lawsuit was structured very carefully, right? It was going at, you are promoting piracy, and here's how we can prove you are promoting the piracy aspect of emulation, and kind of just sidestepped their personal feelings on emulation as a whole. Well, my guess is that Yuzu went ahead, talked to an attorney looked at the discovery stuff, documents from Nintendo, or the presented what would be added to discovery if they saw the inside of a courtroom, and they were like, yeah, you're boned.
You said too much. You said too much.
You're kind of boned. So they have reached a settlement. Now, the judge hasn't approved it, but that's usually just a formality in these types of things. So it still technically has to go and have a judge sign off on the settlement. But Tropic Haze has been ordered to pay Nintendo $2.4 million in damages, as well as immediately cease development, promotion, and distribution of Yuzu and any of its associated software or source code. The developer also has to close down its website and any social media presence, including its Discord server, and will have to surrender the yuzu-emu.org domain to Nintendo. 3DS simulator Citra also got caught up in this. Now, they weren't specifically named in the court documents, but they were created by the same people behind Yuzu. And now they're barred from working on any other project that infringes on Nintendo's copyrights or operating systems. So Citra 3DS emulator gets caught down in this too. Yuzu did take to Twitter for, one of their very last times with an official statement that said, "Hello, users and Citra fans. We write today to inform you that Yuzu and Yuzu's support of Citra are being discontinued effective immediately. Yuzu and its team have always been against piracy. We started the projects in good faith out of passion for Nintendo and its consoles and games, and we were not intending to cause harm. But we see how now that because our projects can circumvent Nintendo's technological protection measures and allow users to play games outside of authorized hardware, they have led to extensive piracy. In particular, we've been deeply disappointed when users have used our software to leak game content prior to its release and ruin the experience for legitimate purchasers and fans. We have come to the decision that we cannot continue to allow this to occur. Piracy was never our intention, and we believe that piracy of video games and on video game consoles should end. Effective today, we'll be pulling our code repositories offline, discontinuing our Patreon accounts and Discord servers, and soon shutting down our websites. We hope our actions will be a small step toward ending piracy of all creators' works. Thank you for your years of support and understanding of our decision. I just want to say personally that I feel like it was very nice of Nintendo to write the statement for them.
I was going to say that sounds like something a lawyer told them to write, but that's even better.
Because that 100% either came directly from Nintendo or was negotiated as part of the settlement that they had to make. That statement is bullshit. Okay?
How is piracy not their intention?
Right.
And here's the problem. You can develop emulators and stuff like that and hide under the education auspices of emulation or reverse engineering and things like that. Yuzu wasn't doing that. They put a huge mark on their back.
Yep.
When they started charging and collecting via Patreon for premium benefits of their stuff, when they were providing directions on their Discord on how to rip your own ROMs off of your... When they provided those tools, and then, more importantly, whether they did this intentionally or not, I don't want to put malice on them or greed on them where I don't know for sure, Dom, it exists.
Sure.
But if not, if it wasn't done intentionally, a series of decisions put them in a position where they had to facilitate piracy.
Yes.
Intentionally.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When they started charging for certain things, you feel a certain obligation to your paying customers when those paying customers are complaining about not being able to play or do something on your service. And when there's leaked copies of the newest Zelda's game, you are financially incentivized to make sure that that can play ASAP.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they did that all intentionally because they wanted to pirate stuff and help people pirate stuff, or it was just an unfortunate, rubber band effect of, hey, we think it would be nice to have some premium Patreon, stuff. So let's add a couple of these things. Oh, now we're depending on that income, and a lot of them are very unhappy because day one, we can't play the pirated Zelda. We all need to work on the pirated Zelda right now. Well, the statement reeks of BS.
Yeah.
When that was the loop that they were caught in. Again, I'm not going to ascribe malice or greed to them, but it very well could have been. It could have been just a series of bad choices. Either way, the shockwaves are rippling across emulation still. Drastic, a different emulator, has now stopped charging for its services. That's probably a good shot. Good idea. That's probably a good idea.
Little bit.
Yeah. What's your take on the entire thing, Dom? Since I'm going to give you a little extra time since you weren't here last week, if you had some opinions you wanted to throw in.
I mean, emulation's always been such a crazy topic because I'm sure you guys went over this, but at the core of it, like the emulator itself is not, as long as it's not using direct code from the source material, it is not illegal to use, to operate, to own, to produce, to do anything with.
Sony has specifically lost lawsuits related directly to somebody using the PlayStation BIOS files.
Yeah.
And they have lost those lawsuits.
It's the distribution of the ROMs that is illegal. So even like them teaching people how to rip their own ROMs, that's actually fairly common. And that's what emulation is actually intended for, is you're supposed to rip your ROMs, make backup copies of your software, and then you have hardware that could play these forever because cartridges, CDs, DVDs, whatever, deteriorate over time. And at some point, be it 100 years from now, whatever, they're not going to exist. They're
right.
They're
and
not
I think
function.
that's one of the legal questions that Nintendo really doesn't want specifically addressed. Nintendo's standpoint, if you go on their site, is that no, you can't even back up your own stuff. In the United States here, obviously, as we mentioned last week, there are laws on the book saying that you can preserve a backup of your own stuff for you. Now, where I don't want to say gray area because it is very clear what it's saying. Where the murky interpretation could lie, and where Nintendo's primary argument on this is that when that was settled in a court, they were referring to pieces of software at the time, which were Excel and Access and database spreadsheets and programs like that. Where Nintendo would love to argue that point in court, but doesn't want to risk losing it, and this is one of the points I thought they might not want to hit court with this for. Nintendo says, yeah, we're acknowledging that is on the books. You know, you are allowed to do that. Where we say that is still wrong and does not apply is that does not take into account, Yod, in the backup of the game that you are taking. You are not just taking the software. You are taking images, music, and other things that are legitimately protected by copyright.
Right.
Now, to get that litigated in court, to get the answer Nintendo wants, also comes with the risk of the court saying, no, once you put it in software, as long as they are not using those copyright images in a way they're not allowed to do so, you're allowed to take a backup of it still. The original ruling does apply even in these circumstances, and Nintendo doesn't want to risk that portion.
Right.
But they would love a court to rule with them saying, oh yeah, there are copyrighted materials inside the software, so we got to addend the laws. And
not just copyright, but trademarked, which
in some cases, yes. Yeah.
Different. Trademark, copyright, different. Which that would open a completely other can of worms, since trademarks you have to go after anybody using your trademark. Where with copyright you can let it slide if you want.
Yeah, it's a Cal bringing up copyrighted encryption tech. We're talking about any copyrighted aspect inside the file. That's Nintendo's primary argument. Is, yeah, the law says you could take a backup, but what that law doesn't take into account is if the backup is also pulling copyrighted materials, it should not be able to be done, but currently still is until litigated in court. Not surprised that Yuzu settled. Definitely surprised at how fast it happened, though. But if you think about it, it's like the longer they don't settle, the likelihood of them getting a settlement gets harder and harder, or at least one that they could maybe financially pull off becomes harder and harder and harder. Because remember, Nintendo was very careful with this lawsuit, Dom.
Yeah.
They were very careful what they went after. They said, you are promoting piracy. That is what we are suing you for. And we are going to show how you are promoting getting our stuff stolen.
I will already say, like, that approach to, like, the trademarked material that you're copying, it already, like, has me going, that's interesting, right?
It is. It's an interesting argument.
Yeah.
It's an interesting argument, but it's one that if you took to court, Nintendo could lose.
Right. Because I guess it would be similar to, like, if you're, like, what's the difference between making a backup of a CD that you purchased, right? You're doing that, and then the only issue is if you start using it for, like, public performance or something like that, right?
No, there is an issue because technically there is no laws allowing you to make a backup of something like an audio file or a video file. You can't make a copy of a movie and have that legally protected as a backup. The backups on the books specifically refer to software packages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Havoc said, I think if you're dealing with just the copyright thing and not with it in part of a bigger picture, meaning a game. Right. To Cal, I just want one of these emulator makers to go to court and see what the judge says. I wanted to ask that question. Thank you, to Cal, actually, because it's kind of been making me think. There is an argument for emulator developers to want to get those specific question answers on paper too, Yod. Hopefully in their favor, right?
Right.
But it is one of those, like, nobody takes the YouTube DMCA stuff goes back and forth and everybody threatens to go to court, but nobody ever actually does it.
No, they don't.
Because neither side really wants the answer on paper unless it's their answer, and it's too risky that it won't be your answer.
Yeah.
The answer you want. And so we kind of had the same thing here too. Nintendo sure would like these nailed down. Emulator creators sure would like these answers nailed down. But neither one is willing to risk it all to get the answer in case it's not theirs. and you
one day
add
it's going to happen.
Well, here's the thing. I want to ask you, do you think it honestly can? Because the audiences that want this question answered are not generally the audiences that could afford even a normally run litigation process with a company like Nintendo on the other side. And that's assuming that Nintendo just didn't bog them down with motion after motion after motion, forcing expense on the other side. Even if all things were being equal, and it was going to be a normal trial, a normal duration of a trial, we're talking about emulator creators. We're not talking about Microsoft creating a product that Nintendo says, hey, wait a minute, and now these two big companies butt heads and get the answers for us. We're talking about Tropic Haze and Yuzu, right? They were making a little bit of scratch, enough to afford a $2.4 million settlement, but they were up against Nintendo.
Yeah. I mean, you get
the last time we saw this stuff actually get settled in court with stuff like PlayStation versus Connectix, PlayStation versus Bleem. And even though Connectix and Bleem both won on those cases, one of which had to go to appeal and then win, but that's fine. Both won. It still ended up bankrupting these to the point that they ended up selling to PlayStation.
I think eventually it's going to happen. You're going to get some company or some person out there that is just stubborn enough, paired up with a lawyer that's just bold enough to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to happen at some point. I'm not saying like, I don't know. I think it will. I'm not saying it's going to happen soon, but I think it will eventually, you know, be it now or 100 years from now. Somebody's going to get there. You get the right person in there, it's stubborn enough, they're not going to want to budge. If they think they could win, they'll do it, and they'll find a lawyer that'll do it all like pro bono if they really think that they could win.
One of us crazy gamers who's a lawyer is going to turn like 65 and be like, okay, I'm going to retire, and then this is what I'm going to do.
Going after Nintendo.
Which one of you wants to file a lawsuit? Totally free. I just need a client, please.
I mean, it's definitely possible, because there was
Havoc brought up the Pepsi Jet people. Yeah.
Pepsi Jet people.
Mm-hmm.
But no, there was a lawsuit between Paramount and a Star Trek fan group.
Oh yeah.
With the whole Axnar thing that set a precedence after that, because of what they were doing for fan films and stuff like that. So it's highly possible that at some point in time, some video game fan with enough money is going to get a bug up their butt that they want to actually go to court with the companies.
Yeah, but you see, even in that example, Axnar settled. Axnar settled.
They did, but they didn't. They did, but they didn't.
Oh, no, they settled.
They got their ass kicked, is what they did.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
when it comes down to it, he who owns the copyright sets the rules.
That's referred to as the golden rule, right?
Right. So
whoever has the gold makes the rules.
Right. So they can try to go up against them, but at the end of the day, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they own the gold, they own the copyright, the trademarks, and has bigger coffers. So
yep. So it's very interesting. Other emulator creators are obviously still being very careful about what they do. By the way, Switch emulation is by no means dead. Obviously, there were competitors to Yuzu while Yuzu was up and running. And if you think for a minute that somebody ain't finding what Yuzu was doing and doing their magic tech thing in the background and putting it out, and now it's called Zuzu. Like,
as long as you don't promote the piracy.
This is called Zuzu. Enjoy. So yeah, it's totally fine. And you can bet, as soon as I saw that announcement, I was like, let me go and try and update these files real quick. On both my Steam Deck and PC. Hey, moving on, this week we had the Xbox Partner Showcase, the Partner Preview, and everything was, all kinds of good stuff was announced. Now, obviously, the biggest announcement, arguably, was Final Fantasy XIV moving to official launch on the Xbox platform on March 21st. If you want more of our thoughts and opinions on that and some of the stuff they're doing with Game Pass, check out The Relic Grind from this past Thursday. Excuse me. It's on YouTube and on ReadyCheckRadio.com. You can have our entire backlog of all of our shows there, and in the upper right-hand corner, all the socials. So if you want to follow us, which we would appreciate, and I want to impress my dad, right? I want to make my dad proud. Get to 1,000 Twitch.tv followers, so that my dad will get off my back. I'm a success. Just kidding. My dad passed away a long time ago. I love him very much, and he was never that kind of dad to begin with. So click those socials, give it a like, and come follow us on Twitch. We're getting close. We're like almost to 700 on Twitch.
Oh, wow.
So help us get to 1,000 there. That'd be great. But if you want opinions on the Final Fantasy stuff, go check that out. Checking out everything else on the show, we've got a couple different ones that I wanted to spotlight here personally, and then obviously we'll hit some of yours as well. The first one that I was really looking at was Sinking City 2. I mean, I'm a sucker for horror games, right?
Yeah.
And then if you throw some Lovecraftian stuff in there, all the better. Now, H.P. Lovecraft was a scumbag, right? But I love the lore and that whole mythos and universe and stuff like that. It's a very separate art from artist moment for me when it comes to H.P. Lovecraft. Sinking City. Go ahead.
Did you watch the TV show Lovecraft Country?
I did not.
I did.
Check that out. Check it out.
Yeah, it is very good.
So I'm definitely looking forward to Sinking City 2. I enjoyed the first one, but it wasn't great.
Mm-hmm.
This one looks like they are just like, okay, you know what? We're going to stick with like the full-on horror game aspect because the original wasn't quite that style. There were horror aspects to it, but it looks like this one they were like, yeah, we're just going to evolve this into like a full-blown horror game at this point.
They're going all in.
And I'm all for it. Like Arkham's flooded. Let's do this thing. I cannot wait for this one. I know before this there was Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess. That's coming to Game Pass. I don't know how much interest. I mean, it's single player kind of.
It looks like it could be fun.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's coming to Game Pass. So I'm going to try
Right.
it. It cost me nothing.
Why not?
Exactly.
At that point.
Exactly. Persona 3 Reloaded expansion pass announced. I'm sure that'll make Torchwick happy. And then Stalker Legends of the Zone trilogy they YOLO launched it, Dom. They were like, here you go.
Yep.
Okay.
Next up, what did I want? Oh, I like this one too. This is another one. Fucking Unknown 9.
Yes.
Unknown 9 Awakening.
It's beautiful.
Oh, Anya Chalatra in this in a gameplay reveal that you're seeing here. This one looks very, very interesting to me. It's one of those games, right, where you can play any way you want, like play stealthy, be aggressive, and jump into the fray. Like there's multiple different ways. Takao, wow, just looked up Lovecraft dude was not a fan of anybody, it seems. Yikes. Yeah, he was not. Like, he was not. I told you, it's a very separate art from artist guy. But this looks great. Coming from Bandai Namco, which we're going to talk about them a little bit later, too. Reflector Entertainment. Some of the abilities in this video look really cool, like where you are actually manipulating the NPCs themselves into doing things for you, or you're walking into traps or stuff. This looks very, very cool, and I cannot wait to try this, Dom.
Yeah, it looks great. I love the flexibility of having your own playstyle, because you get a game like Metal Gear Solid, which is supposed to be like this stealth tactical game, and that's not how I play it at all. So, I'm run and gun the whole way. Let's go. So I like having the options.
Stealth's just the suggested route.
Yeah, it's optional. Optional. It's the same way I played Uncharted. It's the same. All of them. There's no such thing as stealth for me.
I figured you would probably be more interested in this than me, Yod, and that is the Tales of Kenzera Zao.
Tales of Kenzera Zao. Which one was that one? Let me see here.
I'm gonna put the camera on him while he looks this up, as if he didn't have the show notes 24 hours in advance.
Well, I'm scrolling through the games.
It's right after Unknown 9.
After Unknown 9.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Yeah, that one looks pretty interesting.
I just thought you would like the art style, like, because
The
it is
art
very
style is
very
great.
unique looking.
Yeah.
It's like it seems to be a pretty typical action adventure game, but
Right. The gameplay was what they showed of it was kind of interesting. It was just the art. The art style is neat. It is different, so I might check it out just for the art style.
It
But
reminds me a bit of the new Prince of Persia game.
yes.
Man, that Prince of Persia game's so good. I haven't platted it yet, but I'm fully done with it. I don't think I don't think I'm gonna plat it. Like story wise, I'm done. I mean,
You know what I did? You know what I did the other day? I turned on my PS5. It was like a week ago for the first time in almost a year, right? I had to boot up the new Final Fantasy game, right?
Yeah.
While I was doing that, I needed to clear up some hard drive space for some games that were installed, so I uninstalled a few, and then I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, Astros. I booted it up and
it's still installed on mine too. It's still installed on mine too, because every time I have to free up space, I'm like, that's so small, it's not worth it. I'm just gonna leave it there.
I left it too. I booted it up. I went and looked at our scores, and there were a lot. We were like a second or two behind each other, but we went from being like 10th in the world or whatever at the time.
Yeah, we were like 50th and 60th in the world, something like that. I was just like barely ahead of you.
70,000th now.
That shit's probably been so optimized by now.
Oh yeah. I tried to run through one course and I died like 6 seconds in. I go, I don't know any of these anymore, and I shut it off.
I'm out. I mean, you and I were going so hard and so long at that. Like, I don't have arthritis or anything like that, but like I would wake up in the morning and just be like, oh.
I'd have to turn like the haptic triggers off because
it was too
like
painful to pull
squeezing them so hard. It's like I feel like I'm at the gym. Like it was insane.
You built those gamer muscles, man.
Oh man, we did. Takal, you played Astro for like 20 minutes and uninstalled. Yeah, I mean it doesn't. I mean it's a little platformer with some puzzles and stuff, but we were like going after world records, and we weren't doing it when like there was nobody online. There were still hundreds of thousands of people. But at one point, overall, Dom and I were both top 100 in the world.
Yeah.
I was maybe like 8 spots ahead of him, like a 52 to 60 type thing. That's where we were. And then there were 1 or 2. We each had different ones where we were, because there were 8 different courses, if I remember right.
Yes.
Or 8 different challenges. But there were like 1 or 2 that I was top 10 in the world, and then 1 or 2 other ones that Dom was top 10 in the world.
Yep.
Like, we were ballers for a straight month in that game.
Yeah. And I think like our closest score is like 50,000 right now in the world. Yep. So like it's been so optimized, it's ridiculous. The other one that I thought was really interesting here, not that I would ever play it because I haven't touched the game, but I looked at it and I went, really? Was Chucky coming to Roblox?
Yeah, coming to Roblox.
Kind of curious.
It's a chilling interactive experience brought by Rocket Ride Games and Universal Products and Experiences. It's called Griefville Survive the Nightmare for Roblox. And again, that launched at the actual presentation. And yeah, Chucky is in there as well.
Would you? Roblox is a game for younger players, right? For kind of children.
Well, you go ahead and tell all the adults that are suing the shit out of Roblox for marketing and funneling stuff to children and charging money for kids. There are adult experiences on. Wow, that's a bad term to use here.
Well then.
There are not those kind of adult experiences on Roblox
anymore.
Exactly. Chad is now phrasing. Yes, I owe me. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Roblox XXX.
I mean,
it's just Roblox XXX.
Yeah.
Add 2 more X's on, you're good to go.
For the adult experience.
Jesus, Mike.
Human Centipede, fun for the whole family.
We'll be on Roblox.
Like, see, now I'm like trying to think, but there's no way, because I said adult experiences, there is now no way I can word this that won't also just automatically be moved. Like, I almost thought more mature content. Okay, well, now that I've said adult experiences, that's not going to the right place either.
Yeah.
No. There is 18 and above video game violence, horror content.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's turning into more of a platform like Fortnite is. Right?
Yeah.
Fortnite is getting like further away from the battle royale, and they're getting into more. They have Rocket League on there now. They have
All right,
Lego.
so now hold on. I gotta look. I mean, Rule 34 says this has to exist, right?
Oh my god.
And then they have Rock Band as well.
Yeah, it exists. Okay. Oh my god, it exists. Anyway.
Let's move along.
Rule 34. Anyway. Next up, Creatures of Ava. So if you've been playing Power World lately and you're thinking, you know what? Saving creatures would be a lot nicer than turning them into mass homicidal maniacs, then this might be for you. This might be for you. This is a little character or a creature saver game.
No, I need
no violence. You need your guns?
Yeah.
You gotta
Power World's ruined it for me.
You're right. It didn't get to be a rule by having exceptions. You're right.
Yeah.
All right, so I brought this footage here, and you're gonna be like, "Come on, Mike, why did you bring this here?"
What did you
And like obviously, like I'm not a huge like
God.
they're okay. There's a new BMX game out. Yeah, yay! You know, I normally just skip those, or I even just mention them to you in case you're a fan. This is yes, that was a shark car. This is Monster Jam Showdown. This is coming out this year for the Xbox Series X and S.
Come on, Mike. Why did you bring this here?
So Torchwick and I, part of his Christmas gift every year is my dad, when I was a teenager, or slightly before teenage, I think, if I'm remembering right, Havoc can correct me. My dad and my brother Havoc and I, we would like occasionally watch the monster trucks on TV. Like we had that child boy interest in a big car with big wheels, right? And then we didn't. Like every other little boy and little girl, you're like, that's really a cool thing. And okay, great. But there was one time that my dad surprised us and took us to what was the Civic Arena back then in Pittsburgh to see a monster truck show. And it was incredible. Like, and we never went again. It wasn't like something we always did. It was just that once out of the blue. And it was a blast. It was like, you know, and so I've always tried to do kind of what my parents did with my kids, which is, I'm going to try to expose you to as many things as I can, and you pick up and run with the things that you like, right? I'll take you to a hockey game, even if Bigfoot was there back then, yes. And so was Gravedigger, and this was like at the era that those two kind of changed over, right? And Bigfoot was no longer the big dog, but Gravedigger became the big dog. It was right around that era.
What about
that? I don't remember. And so I've always done that with my kids. So maybe Torchwick was like 14, 13. For Christmas, we obviously do the stuff from Santa. Yeah. Was he there? Cool. I know Havoc was all about Gravedigger. All about Gravedigger. He loved that truck. And anyway, for Christmas, we get all the stuff from Santa, but then there's always a gift from dad to Torchwick, from dad to my daughter, or to my other son, right? A personal gift. And I've always been really big on making those gifts experiences rather than a gift. You know, a toy, a trinket, a book. You know, we go do something together. Go to a Penguin game. We go to a baseball game. We go to the Andy Warhol Museum. We go to a retro video game convention 3 states away. Like, they're always experiences. That's what I try to do, at least. And so I bought him monster truck tickets. It's like, here we go. I'm going to get him. I think he'll like this. And so we just went. He had a blast. An absolute blasty. And he loves Gravedigger too, Havoc. That's his truck. And so that has been part of his Christmas gift every year for like the last 6 years now. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, I'm going to bring this to the show just to kind of tell that story because it's a cute story and everything. But, like, there's Megalodon. But he loves Gravedigger. And so, like, all the things that if you've never been to a monster truck show, there are aspects where you can score what's going on in real time, and then the audience score determines the final results, like a 1 through 10 scale thing. Like who did the best tricks, and you rate them when they're done. Each truck is done. There is a truck called Zombie that is painted like a zombie, and it has 2 big-ass arms like this. That anytime the truck moves, the arms do this as the truck is bouncing, right?
Oh, jeez.
And it is one of the coolest looking trucks there, and it's my favorite, right? But it is literally awful. We have been to this like 6 or 7 times now. There are always 8 trucks in a competition for Monster Jam at a house show. And the first couple of times it came in 8th out of 8th. I've seen it come as high as 6th. The only time it came in 6th place was the competition where 2 other trucks got put out of commission halfway through. I saw Zombie come in 7th once because the 8th place truck got put out of commission before the end of the event. So the only time I have seen this thing higher than 8th was when someone else broke down. So I was like, I had to find out if Zombie was in this, but they don't have a listing of all of the trucks that are in it yet. This footage you're watching right now with Gravedigger jumping, if it loops back around, you'll see it. I frame by frame this trailer to see if I could see Zombie in there at all. And I did.
You did?
Yes, Zombie is not only in there, but Zombie is beating Gravedigger in this race that is shown. If we go back and we get to the racing scene here again, where Gravedigger, it's from Gravedigger's point of view, watch in front of him, you will see a truck with arms doing this as it's taking its bounces all over the place. Now, this is going to be Megalodon in the freestyle. And I was like, immediately, I'm bringing this footage to the show because I got to show Torchwick this. Here is the reality of monster trucks, not that fake show you see live, where they're always like, Gravedigger's got to win for the audience. Watch. You can see it up here. A little far away, so you can't tell right now. Right there. You can see it. It's got the arms. Yes! Zombie totally beating Gravedigger.
I would imagine like extra trucks and stuff is going to be one of the monetization things that come later.
Probably. It's probably going to be a fucking terrible game, but...
That too.
Yeah, I've always loved like Demolition Derby style games. So like Twisted Metal was always one of my favorite, games. And I'm still shocked that with the Twisted Metal TV series and the renewal for a season 2, we have not been announced a new Twisted Metal game yet. It's blowing my mind. They need to do it. I'm hoping we get some announcement this summer during like, the E3 that doesn't exist season.
Well, I mean, they did go ahead and pick up Avatar for a 2nd and a 3rd season real quick.
Yeah,
they picked that.
I've only watched the first
quick.
2 episodes of that, and
same.
I don't hate it. I think it's pretty decent. The actors, they're kids, it's whatever. It's like they're staying fairly true to it, but it's like I've heard some worse things about it, so I'm a little afraid to move past those episodes.
Same. And I mean, with the second episodes, as you see in the second episode, there is the major issue. I know I'm veering off topic, but
when do we get a TV show channel, Mike?
Right?
When I go to Vegas and come home with a few $1 million.
But no, yeah, I have issues with it, but anyways.
Yeah.
Here's one that I've never heard of. I missed all announcements for this, but man, does it sound interesting to me. That means it'll probably be awful, but it sounds interesting to me. So here's a dude. This game is called The Alters, spelled Alters, and it is coming to Game Pass, so I won't have to spend money on it. You play as a dude that crash landed on a pretty hostile planet during an exercise of stuff and now has to survive by himself. So it is a survival game, and I'm not generally a fan of those, like, just run around, collect stuff, craft stuff, build stuff, run around, collect it. Like, that really doesn't do it for me. But here's the let's put a little twist on that. Let's throw a little wrench in this. The star that the planet is orbiting around is so close and so hot that you can get scorched to death if you're out in the sun. So you have to figure out different ways to survive out there. Also, This is just your regular dude in the world at that point who, yeah, they can do space travel, but he's not a fucking botanist. He's not a geologist. He doesn't know how to start growing food on this planet to survive and stuff like that. So what does he have to do? Well, there's a material on this planet that your computer can synthesize a version of you, another version of you. But there's a catch. The version of you has to be based on you thinking about a decision in your life that you could have made a different way. And it synthesizes that version of you on what would have happened if you would have fought a little harder to save your marriage, if you hadn't dropped out of college. What would that version of you be? Would that one go
spaghetti and meatballs instead of chicken parm?
And now here's the final catch. It's kind of like The Sims from there. Because now you have to keep all these different versions of you working together and somewhat happy. But as you make more and more of them, that's going to be impossible to keep everybody happy and not murdering each other who are all different versions of you.
Damn.
This sounds like a really interesting... Takal's got it. To me, I watched the thing and I was like, that is a cool hook. Now, if you execute it, it's going to be a different story. But you kind of got me interested in a survival game. And I generally don't care about that genre.
I will say I dismissed this pretty quickly. So like you filling me in on that opens the doors for me, because when I saw it, I watched the first maybe 20, 30 seconds of the video. I'm like, this looks like Death Stranding, and I shut it off.
Nope. Do they know they aren't the original? That I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
it didn't go into that. But they all look different because obviously they went on different paths, and so there are some they look clearly different. Okay, well, how did you end up with one eye, or how does your skin tone kind of appear differently from mine? Maybe some narrative questions that need to be answered there too, but. They got me interested. I'll give them that. It does sound like a nightmare. I would not want to be running this house with 8 of me walking around, all based on some big decision we made different points of my life. We're running out of time. So the last couple of things that we got from that show were what? We had the first Berserker, Kazan. That's a very action-oriented combat, revenge kind of almost samurai-ish storyline. Don't confuse that for being placed in the timeline of a samurai, but that kind of revenge plot. Frostpunk 2 is going to be on Game Pass July 24th. And then I'm showing the footage for the last one that I was personally kind of interested in. This is Sleight of Hand. This, not only did I absolutely love the art aesthetic, but it's a third-person stealth game of espionage with some accursed deck of cards that gives the character abilities to do things. I thought it was very, very neat, and I will definitely be, what if you fought that bear? Check it out. Now, I've already removed some things from our miscellaneous news because we were running a little late. Yes. So I do want to give you a couple updates, though, to things we were talking about on previous shows. We laughed at Warner Brothers having the audacity to look at their financials and being disappointed that Suicide Squad wasn't setting them up for as good a year as Hogwarts did last year. Hogwarts being a single-player game in the Harry Potter franchise, and Suicide Squad being a shitty live service game in the DC franchise. Well, they have reiterated something they said in financial reports 6 months ago, that they are absolutely going to focus their biggest franchises on console and PC into free-to-play extension live service games on more platforms. Those IPs being Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, DC, and Harry Potter. Despite the fact that their most recent DC-based live service isn't doing well at all. It's got its audience, and it doesn't have terrible reviews. Its audience just isn't big enough. And its single-player Harry Potter game was the highest grossing game the highest selling game of last year. No, they're going to go the live service route, which fine, recurring revenue, but they don't historically do this well. So we'll see. Speaking of other live service games, let's talk just for a minute about Skull and Bones, because there was an article on IGN that I wanted to get your guys' take on it. Ubisoft, the headline reads, Ubisoft says Skull and Bones has record player engagement. but fails to announce sales. Basically, this comes from their financial report ahead of Season 1's reveal and release for Skull and Bones. And man, I think I threw this in Ready Check Radio chat when I first saw it, and I was like, how many different ways can you avoid talking about how many copies of this game you've sold? We have not yet still received a 1 million player thing, even though this thing has an 8-hour trial. And you could bet as soon as they get that 1 millionth account, even if it's a free trial account, they're going to advertise that.
Mm-hmm.
But they said when they were describing what here's 6 days. Skull and Bones finally arrived 2024 Maritime RPG. I'm trying to find the actual stat that they gave. It was like 4 hours or something like that.
Yeah, I think. I think
there
right.
it is. There it is. There it is.
4 hours per day or something.
Yeah, in a note to press announcing the Pirate Game's first season, Ubisoft said Skull and Bones has over 4 hours of average daily playtime, which is the second highest ever at the company. AKA, this is not a metric any company advertises. It's certainly one that they review in the back end to watch their player engagement. Are you playing for 10 minutes and then leaving? But this is not an advertising metric, particularly when you have an 8-hour trial.
Yeah.
They did not talk about monthly average users or daily active users. Those are the key metrics in this genre, by the way. When you talk about a live service game, miles and dows, baby. Miles and dows. That's what it's all about. They're not telling you that either. It's not on Steam, so I can't see Steam charts for you or anything like that.
If this is the second game, what's the first?
I don't know, but you want to know what's really interesting?
Yeah.
Or what's really funny? Since the launch of Skull and Bones, the number of people playing Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag on Steam has risen 200%. Everybody's just going back to Black Flag.
They wanted more of that game, not whatever Skull and Bones is.
Yep.
I'm curious if player engagement is being fudged to include like Twitch views and chat in Twitch streams, because that would technically be a player playing the game engaging, right? Can you fudge the numbers that way? Are they doing social media? Are they avoiding everything that's saying people are not actually playing their game and they're just trying to find every other way around it to make it sound good?
I don't think they are here, but you know the old saying, lies, damned lies, and statistics. Mm-hmm. Jeff Keighley tweeted the news this week, and it was already out. I just bring Jeff Keighley into this for a minute because of something he did. Rooster Teeth is shutting down. Like 21 years, right? Something like that of Rooster Teeth content. They are shutting down. Jeff Keighley tweeted this. Sad news, according to Deadline, at Rooster Teeth is shutting down after over 2 decades.
Well, it's Warner Brothers.
Yeah. I could not help myself. And I replied to Jeff on Twitter.
I saw that.
Yeah, I was about to say I saw this crazed guy a message
This
on there.
Nutty Michael Byrne guy on Twitter, and I said, "Why the hell will you talk about this, but totally remain silent about the industry itself? Sad you are actually in a position to create change or awareness, and you choose not to do so." He will tweet about Rooster Teeth closing and those employees being laid off. We have over 6,000 people in video games laid off in just 2024 so far. There were 10,000 laid off in all of 2023. And he says nothing about that. I'm not he's not even going to see it. He doesn't fucking... Come on. I have like 14 or 1,500 followers on Twitter. He isn't even paying attention to me. He ain't blocking me. If he blocks me, I'll mail him a letter.
Strongly worded email.
Strongly worded. It'll just be 140 characters.
In all caps.
Yeah. In good news, to balance this out, Capcom is increasing its starting salary in Japan for employees by more than 25%. If you know about this, that is an extra good thing because just last year, 2 years ago, 2022, Capcom increased salaries by 30%. and put a new bonus system tied to the company's overall performance. Then they went ahead and dropped Street Fighter 6, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Resident Evil Village, and so everybody's bonusing out the ass at Capcom, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Capcom raising salaries, their whole thing, imagine this, in a statement to VGC, with the increasing and starting salary, Capcom is pursuing further investment in human capital and the acquisition of exceptional talent. If you have talent, we want you, and you are going to be paid. And by the way, if you are already here, here's a one-time special payment as an investment in you, the people that support the company.
Damn. That sounds like a well-managed company there.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I hope they can keep it up, because the first thing you want is like the next game that doesn't sell 70 bajillion copies. All of a sudden they lay off a third of their staff. I'm going to call you out for that too. But this is the second time in 2 years that they have done this, offered this increase, given some money to the people that are already there as a one-time bonus payment, and then altered their bonus structure. Their titles are doing better, and they are going to poach a ton of talent from all of these companies that are just laying off talent left and right.
Yeah.
I hope that their track record of profitable games continues. That's what I want to see.
All they have to do is release Dino Crisis Remake and we're good. Like, it's fine.
I mean, you're not wrong. So, it would just be sitting behind you in a package and not played, but, some of us will play it.
Microsoft, by the way, says that Jesus. Microsoft, by the way, says that Russian state-backed hackers have accessed its source code and internal systems. They said that there's nothing leading them to believe that any customer-facing systems were compromised, but that this is not the first time they've been monitoring and fighting a particular nation-state-backed organization called Midnight Blizzard that has been trying to gain unauthorized access. And they said in recent weeks, we've seen evidence that Midnight Blizzard is using information initially exfiltrated from our corporate email systems to gain or attempt to gain unauthorized access. This has included access to some companies' source code repositories and internal systems. To date, we have found no evidence that Microsoft-hosted customer-facing systems have been compromised. What a world we live in, gang. What a world we live in. Stockholders ain't going to let that shit fly too much longer, I'm sure. Well, I would disagree. 2 years ago, Capcom already gave them the increase. 2 years later, they're doing it again. If shareholders had a problem, they would not be doing it again. Trust me. Trust me. Is Capcom even publicly traded? I don't know that off the top
I
of my
don't know.
head.
Yeah, I don't know if they're publicly traded. But like I said,
that may be another thing to look up.
Yeah, that does sound, with Capcom. It does sound like Capcom is making smart choices.
Yeah, Capcom is publicly traded.
They are, yeah.
And they're making smart choices. They're fostering their talent. They know who is making their money for them.
And year to date, they started the year with a $15 stock price, 15 and change, and now they're up to a $20 and change stock price year to date so far. Let's go ahead and do our games of the week. Didn't have the right camera on. Games of the week is the way we end every episode of Gaming Gumbo here. It's where all three of us are about to give you a recommendation. Could be a video game, a board game, a mobile game, a card game, something we're playing, have played in the past, or haven't played yet but think you should try out. And you let us know in the comments as you chime in on your thoughts on our different topics today, which of the three of us gave the best recommendation. Yad, we're off to you first.
All right, so we were supposed to talk about remakes and remasters and stuff, so I'm going to say
we didn't make it
VII
there.
Rebirth. Everybody except for Torchwick. He needs to finish the first one first. The original.
Dom.
So I've also I have it. It's sealed, but that doesn't mean anything. I've actually started playing this one. I also bought it digitally because I couldn't get a deluxe version physically. So I bought a deluxe, whatever. So I started playing that. I would say that I'm not going to because I'm just barely scratched the surface. I'm only at the start of chapter 2. I will say I do have some interest in this season of Fortnite, Chapter 5, Season 2. Myths and Mortals, they're doing a whole Greek god kind of thing. And then paired with, the only reason I'm keeping tabs on Fortnite is because they're doing the Rock Band thing in there. And I've been doing that. And they just added a bunch of like Disturbed and Blink-182 tracks and stuff in there. So
Yeah, that chapter took forever to get launched yesterday. They were having huge issues. With getting that out there. What's happened to the Perfect Dark game? That was still years away.
Yeah.
Last time we heard, I think, was like midway through 2023, and at that point, they when they talked about it, they said this is like still 2 or 3 years away. So, yeah, that's why you haven't heard anything. It's still years away. Been playing Dragon Quest Builders 2. Speaking of Toriyama, DQ. I played DQ Builders 1. I didn't play the second one. I'm going to recommend. Started playing Horizon 1 on PC. It's pretty good. Yes, it is. It is. I'm going to recommend a TCG. Star Wars Unlimited just came out this week. Yesterday or the day before. They had their pre-release event last week. Now, you know me and Final Fantasy trading card game. That is my TCG of choice that I play at a competitive level. But I am a huge Star Wars dork, so I wanted to give it a whirl. I remember the Star Wars, the customizable card game from back when I was a teenager, when Magic the Gathering first started taking the world by storm. Absolutely loved it. It's discontinued anymore a long time ago. And then since then, like Fantasy Flight Games and other companies have done these like living card games. I'm not so much a fan of this. I'll play them, but I'm more a fan of TCGs and trading card games. And this is the newest one, Star Wars Unlimited. Torchwick and I played the starter decks for the first time last night. We had quite a bit of fun. We grabbed a couple of booster boxes and opened them up upstairs. So right after today's show, I'm going to be deck crafting, baby. And you should too. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Relic Grind on Thursday. Will we be? No, we will not have a show Thursday. We're off for the next 2 weeks on that show. But we will be back next Saturday for Gaming Gumbo. So check us out next Saturday. Until then, Yod, where can everybody find you?
Yard Artworks on all the socials. OtakuDomeComic.com releases every Friday, and right here on Gaming Gumbo most of the time. Most
of the time. Dom.
You can find me down below at Itzista.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at Magic Man 1, but more importantly, follow at RC Radio, and you'll know every time we're going live with a podcast or hanging out with playing some trading card games, including Final Fantasy. No Torchwick stream tonight, but Tark will be live at midnight with Alan Wake 2. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.